"Why is my dead brother's name on this receipt?" Dominic Vale asked, and every wine glass in the room stopped moving. Nia Brooks stood beside the shattered silver tray, blood slipping from her palm onto her white apron. Beneath the framed photograph of Gabriel Vale lay a pharmacy receipt printed less than 20 minutes ago. Dominic did not look at her face. He looked at the middle name no newspaper had ever known. Elias. Then the lights went out. 3 hours earlier, Nia had been in the service hallway of the Meridian. Pinning a loose button back onto her uniform with the safety pin she kept behind her name tag. The black apron pulled too tightly across her stomach when she bent, and Evelyn Price had already reminded her twice that the Vale Memorial Dinner required a cleaner silhouette. Evelyn never called Nia fat. She was too polished for that. "Some bodies interrupt the architecture of a formal room," she had said while adjusting the seating chart. "Tonight, we need the guests to notice the family, not the staff." Nia had lowered her eyes, but she had not apologized. She had learned years ago that apologies became confessions when the wrong people wrote the paperwork. In the deep pocket of her apron sat a small red receipt book, its carbon pages worn soft from use. She had carried one ever since Evelyn accused her of stealing a $200 tip and erased the register record that proved otherwise. Nia had kept the customer copy. It saved her job, but not her reputation. Since then, every voided entree, every cash adjustment, every missing gratuity went into the red book. People laughed at her for it. People who had never needed paper to prove they were telling the truth. At 1:40 in the morning, the dining room glowed with candles, old money, and the cold shine of riverfront glass. Dominic Vale sat beneath a portrait of his younger brother, who had died 7 years earlier in a warehouse fire. He wore no tie. He did not speak while his lawyer, Julian Cross, moved from table to table offering condolences with the soft confidence of a priest who owned the church. Nia noticed the man at table 12 because he ordered hot water and never touched it. Gray coat, hospital tape around his wrist, left hand trembling beneath the table. He watched Cross, not Dominic. When Nia brought the check folder, the man pressed 2 fingers over it. "Not security," he whispered. His breath smelled faintly of antiseptic. "Not the lawyer." Nia kept her expression still. "Who then?" The man looked toward Gabriel's photograph. "The man beneath it." Before she could ask another question, he stood and walked through the kitchen doors. Evelyn appeared almost immediately. Her smile was calm, but her hand closed around Nia's elbow hard enough to bruise. "What did he give you?" "A tip." "Then enter it and clear the table." Nia opened the folder after Evelyn left. Inside was no cash, only a folded receipt from Mercy Harbor Neurological Center. The patient line read Gabriel Elias Vale. Printed today. Nia's first instinct was fear. Her second was to photograph it with the cracked old phone she kept in her locker for emergencies. Her third was the one that changed everything. She did not take it to Julian Cross. She slipped it beneath the edge of her tray and walked toward Dominic. Evelyn intercepted her near the memorial table. "Use the side aisle," she murmured. Her eyes traveled over Nia's waist before returning to her face. "You take up too much room between the chairs." Across the room, Julian Cross turned his head. Nia saw him see her. The receipt suddenly felt heavier than the tray. She could not reach Dominic without being stopped. So she made a choice. She loosened her grip. The tray struck marble. Crystal exploded around her shoes. Champagne swept across the floor in a golden sheet, and every guest looked down at the chubby waitress who had ruined the silence. Nia used that silence. She slid the receipt beneath Gabriel's photograph. Dominic's hand covered it before Cross could move. His eyes narrowed at the date, then at the middle name. He did not believe her. Not yet. But something in his face went still when Nia said, "Check the printer time." The lights died 3 seconds later. When the emergency lamps returned, table 12 was empty, the kitchen door was locked from the inside, and on the back of the receipt someone had written 4 words in pencil. "Cross knows the room." The pencil marks were faint enough to disappear beneath Dominic's thumb. "Cross knows the room." Nia saw him read the words once, then again without moving anything but his eyes. Around them, the emergency lights hummed awake, washing the dining room in a flat yellow glow that made the broken crystal look like teeth. "Nobody leaves," Dominic said. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. The guards moved before the last word had settled. Doors locked. Phones came out. Conversations died. Nia pressed a linen napkin against her cut palm, while Evelyn stood beside her with the expression of a woman embarrassed by a stain on expensive carpet. "She was not assigned to this table," Evelyn announced. "I want that clearly understood." A woman in diamonds glanced at Nia's apron, then at her body. Was she assigned to this room at all? Julian Cross folded his glasses and slipped them into his breast pocket. He had recovered too quickly. That was the first thing Nia noticed. The second was that he never asked to see the writing on the back of the receipt. "Dominic," he said gently, "you have been sent false photographs before, fabricated recordings. Men who knew exactly what name would make you stop thinking." His voice carried no accusation. It was worse than accusation, carried concern. "This young woman may not understand what she has been pulled into." Nia looked at him. "I understand someone wanted him to see it before you did." A small silence opened. Cross smiled as though she had confirmed something unfortunate. "And why would a stranger select you?" Evelyn answered for her. "Nia has a habit of keeping customer records." She reached into Nia's apron before Nia could step back and pulled out the red receipt book. Several guests shifted in their chairs. What had been caution became suspicion with a shape. Cross took the book from Evelyn but did not open it. "Private transactions," he said. "Copied without authorization." "Copies of my tables," Nia replied. "After she accused me of taking a cash tip." Evelyn's smile tightened. "An incident that was resolved internally. You left it in my file." Cross looked toward Dominic. Possible theft, financial distress, unauthorized records. If someone needed a vulnerable employee, they could hardly choose more carefully. He said vulnerable like dishonest. Nia felt the old heat climb her neck, the same heat from 3 years earlier when security had emptied her locker while the kitchen staff watched. She had learned then that poor women did not need to be guilty. They only needed to be easy to explain. "Give me the book," Cross said softly. "And your phone. We can protect you from whatever this is." No, the word left her before fear could stop it. Evelyn's eyes hardened. Cross's did not. "Nia, no one is accusing you. Then stop collecting my defense." Dominic's gaze moved from the book to Cross's hand. "Put it down." Cross obeyed. Slowly, Dominic picked up neither the receipt nor the book. He looked at Nia instead. "What time did the man sit down?" 1:19. "You're sure?" "The dishwasher cycle ended when he entered. It runs 11 minutes. I started it at 1:08. From behind the kitchen doors came the low mechanical churn of the next load, absurdly ordinary in the sealed room. Dominic held out his hand to a guard. "Shift log." Evelyn produced the tablet herself. Table 12 showed no server assignment, no order, no guest, and no open check. Nia leaned closer. "That's wrong. The system disagrees," Evelyn said. Nia pointed to the bottom of the screen. Her own shift had been edited at 1:36, moving her from the main floor to pantry inventory. "I never worked pantry tonight." Dominic took out his phone and photographed the screen. Cross watched him do it. "A scheduling correction proves nothing." Dominic's voice stayed mild. "Who corrected it?" Evelyn swallowed. "The manager code doesn't show individual users." Nia looked at the access column. 2 key cards had opened the pantry at the exact same second. One belonged to her. The other was marked only as Executive Master. Dominic tapped the screen once. "How many Executive Masters exist?" Evelyn's answer came too slowly. 2. "Who has the second?" Dominic asked. No one spoke. Then Cross reached inside his jacket, and for the first time that night, his hand came out empty. Cross let the empty hand hang between them for half a second, then lowered it as though nothing had happened. "My card is in my office," he said. His tone was smooth, almost bored. Unless we are now treating misplaced plastic as evidence of conspiracy. Dominic watched him without blinking. We're treating missing things as missing. That was all. No accusation. No raised voice. But Cross's smile tightened at one corner before he turned toward the security chief. Pull the dining room footage. Let's spare Miss Brooks any further embarrassment. Nia heard the blade hidden inside the kindness. Not prove her wrong. Spare her embarrassment. As though the truth had already been decided and only her humiliation remained. The footage appeared on the wall monitor beside Gabriel's memorial portrait. At 1:19 a.m., table 12 was empty. At 1:22, still empty. At 1:31, Nia crossed the frame carrying 2 coffee cups, but no man sat waiting for her. Evelyn folded her arms. There. She may have confused tonight with another shift. A few guests looked away from Nia now, which felt worse than staring. She could almost hear the story forming around her. Tired waitress, money problems, old grievance, dead man's name. Cross stood near the screen with one hand in his pocket. Trauma does strange things to memory, he said. Especially when someone has already decided the world is against her. Nia kept the wet linen pressed to her palm. Blood had soaked through and darkened the edge of her torn apron. She watched the screen again. Not the tables. Not the faces. The room. The candles. At 1:28, the flame on table 11 leaned sharply toward the kitchen as the air vent kicked on. At 1:34, it leaned the same way. Same height. Same flicker. Same bead of wax trembling beneath the wick. Then a waiter passed with his right hand tucked into his back pocket. 6 minutes later, he passed again with the exact same step, the exact same crease in his shirt, the exact same loose shoelace striking the floor. Pause it, Nia said. No one moved. Cross gave her a sympathetic glance. Miss Brooks, I think we've asked enough of you. Pause it. Her voice was quieter the second time, but it carried farther. Dominic lifted one finger. The security chief stopped the footage. Go back 11 seconds. Nia said. He did. Play it. The waiter crossed. Again. The same waiter crossed. Same breath. Same blink. Same shoelace. Nia pointed at the candle. The wax doesn't move. Evelyn laughed once. Too quickly. It's a digital camera. Frames repeat. Not for 6 minutes. Nia looked at the timestamp. And the power didn't fail until 1:52. This starts at 1:31. The room changed. Not much. Just enough. A chair creaked. Someone lowered a wine glass without drinking. Dominic stepped closer to the screen. He did not look at Nia, but he no longer stood across from her. He stood beside her. Show me the first clean frame, he told the security chief. They rolled backward. At 1 hour 30 minutes and 58 seconds, before the loop began, the edge of table 12 entered view. A gray sleeve. A hand. Something silver flashed beneath the linen. The image blurred when they enlarged it, but the shape remained. A hospital key card marked with the blue gull emblem of Mercy Harbor. Cross shifted his weight. Barely. Nia saw it because she had spent years watching rich people move when they believed the help was invisible. That could belong to anyone, he said. Of course, Dominic replied. His voice was almost gentle. So why did you recognize the hospital before she named it? Cross's eyes moved to him. The silence that followed felt colder than the emergency lights. On the frozen screen, the silver card caught one last sliver of light, and beneath the gull emblem, someone had scratched 2 letters into the plastic. SBSB, Nia whispered. The letters were cut deep enough to catch the light. For 1 second, the private dining room disappeared, and she saw her father's hands instead, broad, ink-stained, always smelling faintly of machine oil and coffee. Samuel Brooks had worked payroll at Vail Harbor until the company accused him of moving money into accounts that did not exist. He died with the word thief attached to his name. Nia straightened the name tag Evelyn had pinned crooked that evening. Those are my father's initials. Cross's expression softened with practiced concern. Grief makes patterns feel personal. He turned to Dominic. Samuel Brooks was dismissed for financial misconduct. His daughter finding his initials on a hospital card does not make the card authentic. It gives her motive. The sentence landed exactly where he intended. Several guests looked at Nia differently, no longer as a confused waitress but as the daughter of a disgraced employee standing beneath chandeliers worth more than her mother's house. Evelyn placed a leather folder on the table. For everyone's protection, I prepared a statement. Miss Brooks can confirm she discovered an unidentified piece of plastic after the outage and may have misremembered the guest. She slid a gold pen toward Nia. This does not accuse you of anything. It simply prevents an emotional misunderstanding from becoming a legal one. Nia read the first line. It said she had found the key card after the lights returned. That was false. The camera had shown it before the outage. Her cut hand throbbed beneath the linen. She set the pen down carefully. I won't sign that. Evelyn's smile thinned. You may want to reconsider how much certainty is appropriate for someone in your position. Nia looked at the polished table, the silver water pitchers, the crystal glasses untouched since Dominic locked the doors. My position doesn't change the time. Dominic's eyes lifted. He had been silent so long that the room had begun mistaking silence for indecision. Test her memory, he said. Cross glanced at him. Dominic. Not the card. Her. They moved to the smaller boardroom behind the wine cellar, where dark walnut walls swallowed sound and a 12-foot table made Nia's chair look borrowed. 2 security officers stood behind her. No one offered to bandage her hand properly. Dominic spread a blank floor plan across the table. Show me where the man walked. Nia marked the service entrance, table 12, the linen corridor. What time did he stand? 1:43. Dominic's voice remained flat. You said 1:44. No. The register changed while I voided soup at table 8. Cross leaned back. A convenient distinction. The POS log appeared on a tablet. At 1:43 a.m., Nia's employee number had voided 1 tomato bisque at table 8. Dominic said nothing. Evelyn did. She could have checked that afterward. Nia pointed lower on the screen. Then explain the dessert. At 1:31, her code had approved a complimentary chocolate torte at table 6. At the same minute, the access log showed her key card opening the pantry. I was pouring coffee in the dining room, she said. The footage shows that. Evelyn folded her hands. Cards are misplaced. Employees share access when service is busy. I don't share mine. You expect us to accept that because you say so? Nia reached into her apron and placed her key card on the walnut table. The plastic edge was stained with her blood. Because I signed it out at 6 and it never left this pocket. Dominic looked at the pantry log again. A second credential had opened the same door 3 seconds after Nia's card. Executive Master. Cross gave a small shrug. Then a manager corrected a service problem. Hardly sinister. Evelyn exhaled, believing the room had finally returned to her. Dominic tapped the second entry. How many master cards exist? 2, she answered. Mine and Mr. Cross's. Silence struck the table harder than the fallen tray. Cross did not move, but inside his jacket, the outline of a rectangular card pressed sharply against the fabric. Dominic's gaze settled on the rectangular outline inside Cross's jacket, but he did not ask him to remove the card. That would have been too easy, too public. Instead, he folded the pantry log once and placed it beside Nia's blood-marked employee badge. Where did the linen from table 12 go? He asked. Evelyn answered immediately. Laundry dock. The truck leaves at 2. Dominic checked the clock. 1:58 a.m. Stop it. Cross gave a patient sigh. We are now detaining commercial laundry because a frightened employee saw initials that remind her of her father? Nia looked at the key card on the table. The man wiped his wrist with a dinner napkin before he left. There was adhesive on his skin. Evelyn's eyes moved toward Cross, then away. Dominic noticed. He sent 2 guards downstairs without another word. The waiting stretched. Behind the boardroom wall, the restaurant dishwasher entered its rinse cycle. A low mechanical roar followed by sudden quiet. Nia kept her injured hand curled against her apron. Cross watched the blood darken the fabric. "You should have that treated," he said gently. "Infections are expensive." The words sounded kind. The way he looked at her made them a reminder of every bill she could not afford. 7 minutes later, a guard returned carrying a clear evidence bag. Inside was a hospital wristband, cut cleanly through the clasp and stained with gray lint from the laundry sack. Mercy Harbor's blue gull curved across the plastic. Beneath it were 3 lines: G. Ellis. C. 417. A birth date Dominic knew before the guard finished reading it. His brother's birthday. The silence that followed was not shock. It was resistance. Dominic stared at the band as though refusing to let his eyes make a decision his mind could not survive. Cross stepped closer but kept his hands visible. Gabriel was not the only man born that day. Ellis is not Vale. Anyone with access to public records could manufacture this. The birth date was never public, Dominic said. Cross did not blink. Then it came from someone inside the family, which proves manipulation, not survival. It was a strong answer, strong enough that 2 board members visibly relaxed. Nia did not. She pointed to the printed warning beneath the barcode. Left side motor deficit. Dominic's eyes narrowed. Gabriel had favored his left arm after a shooting at 24. The injury had never appeared in medical releases, only in private rehabilitation invoices. Cross saw the recognition and changed direction smoothly. Old treatment records were copied during the estate review. I supervised that process. Again, stolen information can imitate truth. Nia reached into the inner pocket of her apron and removed her cracked old phone. Evelyn's mouth tightened. Employees are prohibited from photographing customer documents. Good thing it wasn't a customer document. Nia opened the image she had taken before approaching Dominic. The original receipt filled the screen, its edges sharp, the printer timestamp untouched. She handed the phone. To Dominic, not Cross. Check the metadata. His security chief confirmed the photograph had been taken at 1:46 a.m., 6 minutes before the outage. An outside auditor called the pharmacy authorization number directly. The receipt had been printed from Mercy Harbor's neurological dispensary at 1:41. The patient account had opened 7 years earlier. It was still active. There was no death discharge code. Cross remained calm. Legacy accounts stay open for charitable billing. I established several after Gabriel's death. Dominic looked up slowly. You established this one? A pause. Small enough for anyone else to miss. I oversaw the foundation structure. Nia enlarged the barcode on the hospital band. At the far left sat a prefix, F7. Her breath caught. She had seen those characters before, penciled into the margins of her father's old payroll ledger, always beside payments he had circled in red. My father wrote that code before he died. Cross turned toward her too quickly. Your father wrote many things he did not understand. Dominic's face did not change, but his attention shifted completely away from the hospital band. You read Samuel Brooks's private ledger? Cross realized the mistake only after the room had already gone silent. Dominic did not accuse him. He simply rested 2 fingers on Nia's cracked phone and asked, Where's the ledger? Nia's throat tightened. My mother kept my father's boxes. Cross adjusted one cuff. Dominic Samuel Brooks was investigated, dismissed, and found responsible. Reopening a dead man's shame because his daughter recognizes 2 characters on a barcode would be cruel. Nia looked at him. Cruel to whom? The rain had started against the restaurant windows, soft at first, then harder, tapping the glass like fingernails. Somewhere behind the boardroom wall, a spoon struck the edge of a coffee cup. One clean sound, then nothing. Dominic slid his phone across the table. Call your mother. Nia did. Her mother answered on the 4th ring with the television murmuring in the background and the refrigerator door open somewhere nearby. Nia asked about the old payroll boxes. Her mother went quiet. Julian Cross came for them, she finally said. The week your father died. He said the company needed everything back. Cross's expression never changed. Dominic's did not either. That was worse. Did he take all of it? Nia asked.
No.
Your father hid one ledger under the floorboard in the hall closet. Said paper remembered what powerful men forgot. Dominic ended the meeting without ending it. Guests were told the delay involved a security malfunction. Cross was permitted to return to the dining room. Evelyn was ordered to keep service running. Nather was told that Dominic had already sent his private driver to the Brooks apartment and called an outside attorney whose name had never appeared on Vale payroll. When Cross asked whether Dominic wanted him present, Dominic replied, "Not yet." 2 words. Cross smiled, but his hand stayed inside his pocket. 40 minutes later, the ledger arrived wrapped in a faded dish towel. Nia recognized her father's handwriting before Dominic opened the cover. Small numbers, tight columns, red circles beside payments marked F7. North Harbor Medical Transit appeared every month for 7 years. Each payment left a Vale account, passed through a charity trust, and returned as consulting fees to companies with different names but the same mailing address. Cross's law office. Nia did not ask how much the information was worth. She did not ask for her father's pension or the money her mother had lost. She placed one finger beside Samuel's final note. "I want his name corrected." Dominic looked at her. "If this proves what you think?" "Not what I think. What he wrote." The outside attorney found the first buried document 11 minutes later. An emergency guardianship contract filed 2 days after Gabriel's warehouse fire. Patient name G. Ellis.
Permanent cognitive incapacity.
Guardian counsel Julian Cross. Cross had signed every medical transfer, every medication authorization, every proxy vote attached to Gabriel's shares. Dominic's face remained still as additional files appeared on the tablet. Sedative increases before board meetings. Transfer orders before port acquisitions. Neurological unit build under F7 whenever Gabriel's voting rights were needed. Then came the hospital footage. Grainy. Silent. A thin man in a wheelchair crossing a corridor at 12:58 that morning. His face was hidden by a surgical mask. But when the nurse adjusted his blanket, his right wrist turned toward the camera. A hooked scar crossed the skin. Dominic reached into his wallet and removed an old photograph so worn the edges had gone white. Gabriel at 26, laughing beside Samuel Brooks on the docks. The same scar. The same watch, its glass cracked at 2 o'clock. Nia placed the hospital image beside it. "The watch could be planted," Dominic said. His voice sounded distant. "The scar couldn't." A new medication order appeared on the screen. Double sedation. Terminal transfer protocol. 4 a.m. Dominic checked the clock. 2:34. He gave 3 quiet instructions. Copy every file, freeze no accounts yet, and let Cross believe the receipt had failed. Then he looked through the glass wall at the man who had written Gabriel's eulogy every year for 7 years. Cross was pouring himself coffee beneath the portrait of the brother he had helped bury. Dominic stared at him for a long time before saying, almost too softly to hear, "I gave the gravekeeper the keys." Dominic let the words hang between them, then walked back into the dining room as if nothing inside him had changed. Cross stood beneath Gabriel's portrait with one hand around a coffee cup. Dominic removed the folded receipt from his pocket, held it over the fireplace, and watched the corner blacken. "A forgery," he said. The guests exhaled almost together. Cross did not. He watched the paper curl until Dominic dropped it into the flames. "I'm relieved," Cross said softly. "Grief makes intelligent men generous to impossible stories." Dominic looked toward Nia. "Miss Brooks is dismissed." Evelyn's satisfaction appeared only in the slight lift of her chin. Nia lowered her eyes, but not before seeing Dominic tap 2 fingers against his cuff. Once, the signal he had given her in the boardroom. The real receipt remained inside the back cover of her red book. The one burning in the fireplace was a dinner. Receipt from table 8. Evelyn escorted Nia through the kitchen while the dishwasher sprayed hot water against stainless steel racks. Cooks avoided her gaze. A busboy stepped aside as if disgrace could stain him. In the locker room, Nia removed her name tag and set it on the bench instead of throwing it away. Beneath the torn seam of her apron, A recorder no larger than a thumb blinked once, then went dark. She heard the door open behind her. Cross entered alone. He carried a cream envelope and closed the door with the careful gentleness of a man entering a hospital room. "You handled an unfortunate situation better than most people would," he said. "That deserves consideration." He placed the envelope beside her name tag. Inside were paid hospital invoices for her mother, a non-disclosure agreement, and a letter clearing the balance on the Brooks mortgage. "Your father confused access with importance," Cross continued. "I would hate to see his daughter make the same mistake." Nia kept folding her apron, smoothing each crease as though his words were nothing more than lint. "What did F7 pay for?" Cross's eyes did not move. "Transportation. For dead men."
For complicated men.
"And Unit C?" A pause. "Barely there. Units change designations. Not before 4 a.m. Cross looked at her then. The warmth left his face without changing his expression. "You should be careful repeating numbers you do not understand." Nia lifted the hospital tag from her pocket. She had kept the original while security photographed it. "Then explain this one." His hand stopped halfway to the envelope. "Where did you get that?" "Laundry. There are no neurological patients connected to this restaurant." "I didn't say there were." The contradiction entered the room quietly. Cross heard it. So did the recorder. His phone vibrated inside his jacket. He ignored it. Nia asked, "Who are you moving through the West Service elevator?" "No one." "Then why did you say Unit C won't be safe after 4? Cross's gaze dropped to the apron in her hands. He understood too late that she had been making him repeat himself. He stepped closer. "Your mother's bills can disappear tonight. So can people." The door opened behind him. Evelyn stood there, pale, holding her own phone. "The Mercy Harbor vehicle is early," she whispered. Cross turned sharply. Nia noticed the sentence before he could correct it. "Not a vehicle. The vehicle." Evelyn seized Nia's arm and pushed her toward the walk-in freezer at the end of the hall. "You need time to calm down," she said almost kindly. "This is for your own protection." The steel door shut. The lock clicked. Cold air closed around Nia's wet apron and bleeding hand. For 3 seconds, she allowed herself to shake. Then she reached behind the feminine products dispenser, pulled out her cracked old phone, and connected to the kitchen Wi-Fi. She sent Dominic the recording, followed by 6 words. "West elevator. Mercy vehicle. 4 a.m. outside." Cross's phone vibrated again. This time he answered. He listened without speaking, his face slowly losing color. Across the dining room, Dominic stood beneath Gabriel's portrait, holding the unburned receipt between 2 fingers. Nia's name glowed on his screen. Cross looked from the phone to the fireplace and finally understood the mistake. The waitress he had locked behind steel was no longer alone. The freezer door opened with a hiss of white vapor. Dominic stood on the other side, motionless except for the hand holding Nia's old phone. Her recording was still playing through its cracked speaker. "The Vale family needs to believe in a grave," Cross's voice whispered into the cold. Dominic looked at Nia's blue lips, the blood dried across her palm, the apron stiff with frost. "Can you stand?" "Yes." He did not carry her. He stepped aside and let her walk out first. At the West Service gate, the Mercy Harbor van waited with its rear doors open. Inside were cut 4 lines, a blood-stained medical apron, and Gabriel's watch lying face up on the steel floor, its glass cracked at 2 o'clock. Dominic picked it up with both hands. For the first time that night, he could not speak. 6 hours later, the same dining room was filled again. Cross had summoned the Vale board beneath Gabriel's memorial portrait and placed an emergency proxy contract at every seat. He spoke calmly, almost sadly. "Dominic has endangered this family because a dismissed waitress exploited his grief." Evelyn stood beside him with Nia's personnel file. "Deep theft. Emotional instability. Unauthorized copying of private records. Every lie arranged in clean black type." Cross added a forensic report claiming the receipt photograph could have been altered. 3 board members reached for their pens. Dominic sat at the head of the table with Gabriel's broken watch in front of him. He did not defend himself. He looked at Nia. "Your evidence," he said. "Your voice." She walked to the place where her tray had shattered. Her apron still carried a dark line of blood from the freezer door. One by one, she placed the objects on the table. The original hospital receipt, her old phone with untouched metadata, the C417 wristband, the silver keycard marked SB, the payroll ledger her father had hidden, the pharmacy authorization, the guardianship contract, and the recorder. Cross watched without moving. "Circumstantial," he said. "A pile of unrelated objects does not become truth because she arranges it dramatically." Nia opened Samuel Brooks's ledger.
No.
"The numbers do." She laid Cross's emergency proxy beside the confession that had destroyed her father. Both documents contained the same misspelling. Beneficiary. Both carried the same faint break in the letter R, made by the same damaged typewriter key. "My father didn't write his confession," she said. "Your office did. No one touched the pens." Nia played the recording. Cross's phrases entered the room one by one. Unit C. 4 a.m. The Vale family must believe in a grave. Alone, each sounded careful. Beside the hospital tag, transfer order, tunnel access log, and medication schedule, they formed a map. Cross's face remained composed, but his thumb pressed hard enough against the table to whiten the nail. "Your mother's settlement disappears if Samuel's case is reopened," he said. "Think about what stability means for women like you." Nia looked directly at him. "You called our silence stability." The dining room doors opened. Dr. Marcus Reed entered with a bandage across his temple. Behind him came two federal investigators. Then a wheelchair crossed the threshold. Gabriel Vale was thinner than the man in the portrait, one side of his body slack, his wrist bruised by 7 years of needles. Dominic rose halfway and stopped. The pain on his face was small, almost private, but it emptied the room of air. Gabriel looked past him toward Nia. His lips moved twice before sound came. "Samuel." Dr. Reed placed a signed statement on the table. Samuel Brooks had discovered Gabriel alive. Samuel had tried to expose Cross. The theft charge had been punishment. Cross finally turned toward Nia. "He was a payroll clerk." Nia's voice did not rise. "And I'm only a waitress." Silence closed around him. Dominic lifted Gabriel's broken watch, set it on top of the proxy contract, and looked at the man he had trusted with his brother's grave. "Call the federal prosecutor." The federal prosecutor arrived before sunrise, and by noon Julian Cross no longer controlled a trust, a hospital account, a proxy vote, or a locked door. His law license was suspended pending charges for kidnapping, medical fraud, forgery, conspiracy, attempted murder, and racketeering. Mercy Harbor lost its operating authority after investigators found 7 years of altered medication orders, hidden transfers, and patient files rewritten under private contracts. Evelyn Price tried to claim she had only followed instructions. The access logs, deleted camera files, falsified shift reports, and stolen tip records said otherwise. She was removed from the Meridian in front of the same staff she had taught to lower their eyes. 3 months later, a federal judge ordered the return of every withheld gratuity, with interest. Nia stood beside the kitchen crew when the checks were handed out. No applause was required. The numbers were enough. Samuel Brooks's name took longer. Dominic reopened every payroll file, every port investigation, every confession signed during Cross's control. An independent examiner proved Samuel's statement had been forged on Cross's typewriter, and that the missing money had funded Gabriel's private captivity. The Vale board issued a public correction. Samuel Brooks had not stolen from the company. He had discovered fraud, tried to protect Gabriel Vale, and been punished for refusing to remain silent. Nia carried the certified copy to her father's grave with her mother beside her. The wind moved through the cemetery grass. Nia placed the paper against the stone and held it there with both palms. "They read it," she whispered. Her mother touched the carved name as if meeting him again. Dominic did not offer Nia cash. He offered her the job Evelyn once claimed her body did not fit, Director of Internal Audit. Nia returned the contract and signed. She added 4 conditions. The office would answer to independent counsel, not the Vale family. Employees would receive copies of every transaction involving their wages. Complaints could not be altered by managers. And Samuel Brooks's name would fund scholarships for port workers' children studying accounting, nursing, or law. Dominic read the final condition twice. You expect the family to pay for people who may one day investigate us? Especially them. He signed without changing a word. Gabriel's recovery was slower than justice. Some mornings he remembered Dominic immediately. Other mornings he recoiled from black suits and locked doors. Dominic learned not to touch him without asking. He stopped saying, "You're safe." Instead, he pulled a chair several feet from the bed and asked, "May I sit?" On the last night before Nia returned to school, the Meridian reopened under new management. She worked one final dinner shift. Her old apron had been washed, though a faint brown mark remained where her blood had dried in the freezer. She did not hide it. At table 12, Dominic and Gabriel waited beneath a new photograph. Not the funeral portrait, but an old picture of Gabriel and Samuel laughing on the docks. A third chair stood empty. Nia finished her tables, untied the apron, and folded it over the back of that chair. Then she sat. A young waiter brought the bill folder. Inside was the first receipt from the new system: server share, kitchen share, hourly wage, audit number, employee copy automatically printed. Every name appeared in full. Nothing missing, nothing redirected. Dominic noticed the red receipt book beside Nia's hand. Still, keeping every copy. Nia looked at the worn cover. For years, she had carried it because she expected the next accusation before the next kindness. She opened it, tore out the new employee copy, and handed it to the waiter. "This one belongs to you." Then she placed the red book on the audit shelf where any employee could use it. It was no longer proof that Nia Brooks had to defend herself alone. It was proof that no one in that building would ever be forced to do so again. Gabriel raised his coffee with a trembling hand. "Your father said paper remembers." Nia wrapped both hands around her own cup. It was still hot. "People should too." Dominic lowered his eyes, silent for a long moment, while the woman once told to stay out of sight sat beneath the light, drinking her coffee before it could grow cold.